The more desperately you try to control life, the more control life takes from you. You replay conversations, calculate every possible outcome, and push people to respond the way you hoped they would. You tell yourself that one more plan, one more message, one more hour of overthinking will finally make you feel secure, but it never does. The tighter your grip becomes, the more anxious your mind grows. This is where most people misunderstand control. They believe peace will arrive when the world obeys them, when the job is guaranteed, when the relationship feels certain, when no one can reject, disappoint, or betray them. But a life without uncertainty does not exist, and waiting for one is how people waste years fighting reality. Stoicism offers a harder and more liberating truth. Your power was never located in the outcome. It lives in the quality of your judgment, the discipline of your actions, and the character you refuse to abandon when events turn against you. Marcus Aurelius carried responsibilities most people will never know. He lived beneath the weight of command, conflict, illness, loss, and the unpredictable behavior of others. Yet in the privacy of his journal, he kept returning to the same battlefield for the mind. He could not command fate to become convenient. He could only command himself to meet it with reason, courage, justice, and restraint. That distinction changes everything. You cannot control whether someone respects you, but you can control whether their disrespect turns you into someone bitter. You cannot force another person to stay, but you can refuse to beg for affection at the cost of your dignity. You cannot guarantee that your work will be rewarded on your schedule, but you can still work with excellence today. This is not passivity. It is disciplined participation in life. You act fully where action belongs to you, and you release what never belonged to you in the first place. Consider how much energy is lost trying to manage other people's opinions. A delayed reply ruins your evening. One criticism makes you question years of effort. A setback convinces you that everything is collapsing. The event may be small, but your judgment gives it authority. Before long, something outside you is governing everything inside you. And this is the real danger. Not that life refuses to follow your plan, but that you surrender your peace every time it does. A Stoic does not ask, how can I make everything go my way? A Stoic asks, how can I remain clear, useful, and honorable, no matter which way events go? That question does not make you weaker. It makes you difficult to disturb. Today, notice where your mind is trying to control what it can only influence. Do the work. Speak honestly. Prepare carefully. Set the boundary. Then stop demanding that reality sign the agreement you wrote for it. Because the first step towards self-mastery is not gaining more control over life. It is ending your dependence on outcomes. And that is where the next lesson begins. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop making your peace depend on a result you cannot command. Most people do the opposite. They attach their worth to whether the offer comes, whether the relationship survives, whether the audience approves, or whether the plan works on schedule. Then every delay feels personal. Every rejection feels like a verdict. Every closed door feels like proof that they are falling behind. But an outcome is never entirely yours. Your effort is yours. Your preparation is yours. Your honesty, patience, discipline, and courage are yours. The final result is shaped by other people, timing, chance, circumstance, and forces you may never see. When you confuse effort with ownership, anxiety begins. Think of the person waiting for a message from someone they love. They check the phone every few minutes. They rewrite the conversation in their head. They imagine rejection before it happens, then send another message to relieve the discomfort. But the extra pressure does not create connection. It reveals dependence. The same pattern appears at work. You prepare for an interview, present your ideas, and do everything well. Then you spend days trying to control a decision being made in a room you cannot enter. Your body is at home, but your mind is still sitting before the hiring panel, begging for a result. Stoicism breaks this cycle by returning you to the present duty. Epictetus taught that freedom begins when we distinguish what belongs to us from what does not. Your responsibility is not to guarantee success. It is to become the kind of person capable of meeting success or failure without losing direction. That is real detachment. An artist creates better work when attention is on the craft rather than applause. An athlete performs better when focused on the next movement rather than the scoreboard. A strong person enters a relationship to share a life, not to demand that another human being repair their emptiness. The paradox is simple. When you stop clinging to the outcome, your actions often become more effective. You listen better. You think more clearly. You stop performing for approval. You make decisions from self-respect instead of fear. And when the result does not go your way, you do not collapse, because your identity was never placed inside it. Ask yourself today, what am I treating as necessary for my peace? A promotion? A reply? Recognition? A certain timeline? Then replace the demand with a discipline. Instead of saying, this must happen, say, I will do my part well, and I will meet whatever follows with dignity. This is not blind optimism. It is confidence in your ability to respond. You may not receive what you wanted. You may receive it later. You may discover that the door you were forcing would have led you away from yourself. Detachment leaves room for reality to reveal what obsession cannot see. But releasing the outcome is only the beginning. Because even after you let go of the future, there is still one force capable of disturbing you every day: the untrained mind. An untrained mind can turn a small problem into a private catastrophe. A delayed email becomes rejection. One mistake becomes proof that you are incapable. A difficult week becomes a story that your entire life is falling apart. The event is real, but the suffering grows through interpretation. This is why Stoicism does not begin by trying to control the world. It begins by examining the judgment you place between yourself and the world. You cannot stop every thought from appearing. Fear will speak, anger will speak, doubt will speak. But you do not have to obey every voice that enters your mind. A thought is not a command. An emotion is not a verdict. A moment of weakness is not your identity. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself to return to reason, because even an emperor could be ruled by irritation, pride, and anxiety if he failed to guard his inner life. The battlefield was not only at the borders of Rome, it was inside the space between an event and his response. That space is where freedom lives. Imagine making a serious mistake at work. Your first thought may be, I ruined everything. Then, shame begins predicting the future. You picture losing respect, losing the opportunity, perhaps even losing your position. Within minutes, one mistake has become an entire imagined collapse. But a disciplined mind asks different questions. What actually happened? What can be corrected? What lesson is available? What action is required now? These questions do not erase consequences. They prevent panic from multiplying them. This is the Stoic practice of using adversity as training. Pressure exposes the habits of your mind. Criticism reveals how dependent you are on approval. Delay reveals your impatience. Failure reveals whether your confidence was built on character or applause. The obstacle is not automatically good, but it can become useful when you meet it consciously. Begin by listening to your inner language. Notice how often you use words like always, never, everything, and nothing. I always fail. Nothing works for me. Everyone is ahead. These are not facts. They are emotional exaggerations that weaken your ability to see clearly. Replace them with something more honest. This is difficult, but it is specific. I made a mistake, but I can respond. I feel afraid, but fear does not decide my next action. That is not positive thinking. It is accurate thinking. Then return to the present. Anxiety wants to drag you into 10 possible futures at once. Regret wants to imprison you inside a past you cannot edit. Discipline brings you back to the only place where action exists, this moment. Ask, what is the next useful thing I can do? Send the message. Correct the error. Take the walk. Close the app. Apologize without defending yourself. Begin the work before motivation arrives. You do not master the mind by never feeling disturbed. You master it by refusing to let disturbance choose your direction. And once the mind becomes steadier, another test appears. The long silence between effort and results, where patience either becomes strength or turns into desperation. The silence between effort and results is where most people abandon themselves. You begin with discipline. You show up early, work carefully, and tell yourself that patience will be enough. Then, days pass. Nothing changes. No recognition. No breakthrough. No clear sign that your effort matters. Slowly, patience starts to feel like humiliation. This is where desperation enters. You rush decisions that needed time. You compare your progress to people whose path you do not understand. You mistake delay for failure and start forcing movement simply because stillness makes you uncomfortable. But Stoicism does not measure a good life by speed. It measures it by the quality of your conduct while the outcome remains uncertain. Nature does not hurry, yet everything develops according to its conditions. A tree cannot be pulled upward by its branches. A body cannot become strong after one difficult workout. Character does not appear because you repeated one noble thought. What matters must be built through repetition, resistance, and time. Marcus Aurelius lived with problems that could not be solved in a single day. War did not end because he wished it. Illness did not obey authority. Difficult people did not become reasonable because he held power. His task was not to demand immediate resolution. It was to continue acting according to duty, while events unfolded at their own pace. That is a different kind of patience. It is not passive waiting. It is disciplined endurance without emotional collapse. Suppose you are building a career and the opportunities are not coming. You may begin to believe that invisible progress is no progress at all. But each hour of focused work is shaping judgment, skill, and reliability even when no one is applauding. The danger is not that growth is slow. The danger is that impatience convinces you to abandon the very process that was changing you. The same is true in healing, relationships, and self-respect. You cannot repair years of anxiety in one calm morning. You cannot rebuild trust with one conversation. You cannot become disciplined by feeling inspired for 3 days. You become stronger by continuing after the excitement disappears. So stop asking only, when will this happen? Ask, who am I becoming while I wait? That question returns your attention to what belongs to you. You can keep learning. You can improve the work. You can become more honest, more patient, and less dependent on immediate proof. You can review your direction without insulting yourself. You can change the method without abandoning the principle. And you can accept that some outcomes may never arrive. This is the part shallow motivation avoids. Patience is not a guarantee that life will give you what you want. It is the strength to remain honorable even when it does not. You do not need to believe that every delay hides a reward. You only need to believe that uncertainty is survivable and that your character still matters inside it. Continue the work. Release the deadline your ego invented. Let time reveal what force cannot produce. Because once impatience no longer controls you, your actions change. You stop moving from panic and begin moving with purpose. Desperation can make movement look like progress. You send the extra message, accept the wrong opportunity, lower the boundary, or rush the decision, because doing nothing feels unbearable. From the outside, you appear active. Inside, however, fear is choosing the direction. Purpose moves differently. Purpose does not need to prove itself through frantic motion. It begins with clarity. What am I trying to build? What kind of person must I be while building it? Which actions serve that direction, and which ones are only attempts to escape discomfort? Epictetus taught that we should first decide who we intend to be, then act accordingly. That order matters. When identity is unclear, emotion becomes the leader. You react to every rejection, every silence, and every comparison. But when your principles are settled, action becomes deliberate. Consider two people looking for work. One applies everywhere, including positions that violate their values, then treats every rejection as a personal failure. Their attention is scattered because fear has convinced them that any opportunity is better than uncertainty. The other person is equally committed, but more disciplined. They know their strengths, improve weak areas, prepare carefully, and pursue roles that fit the life they are building. Rejection may disappoint them, but it does not erase their direction. Both are taking action. Only one is acting with purpose. The same distinction appears in relationships. Desperation says, I need this person to choose me so I can feel worthy. Purpose says, I will show up honestly, communicate clearly, and observe whether this connection respects both people. One chases validation, The other protects dignity. This does not mean becoming cold or pretending not to care. Stoicism is not emotional withdrawal. It is the discipline to care without surrendering judgment. You can want love without begging for it. You can pursue success without selling your peace. You can desire an opportunity without turning it into proof of your value. When anxiety rises, slow the moment down. Ask yourself, am I acting because this is wise, or because I am terrified of what happens if I wait? Fear hates that question because it exposes unnecessary motion. A purposeful person can pause without feeling powerless. They understand that not every open door should be entered. Not every criticism deserves a response, and not every opportunity is aligned with their character. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that the quality of the action mattered more than the applause surrounding it. The Stoic task is not to appear busy. It is to act with justice, courage, restraint, and clear intention. So before the next decision, define your reason. Remove the imagined emergency. Take the step that remains honorable, even if no one rewards it. Desperation says, I must secure the outcome now. Purpose says, I will do what is right, at the right pace, for the right reason. That shift will save you from many wrong doors. But even purposeful action can become another form of anxiety if you still insist on controlling everything that follows. Control often disguises itself as responsibility. You tell yourself that you are simply being careful, prepared, or committed. But underneath the planning, checking, correcting, and predicting, there may be a deeper fear. The belief that if you stop managing everything, your life will fall apart. So you try to control how people see you. You rehearse every conversation before it happens. You monitor someone's tone, timing, and behavior, searching for signs that something is wrong. You build plans for problems that do not yet exist, then wonder why your mind never rests. The need for control does not create safety. It creates permanent tension. Stoicism offers a clean division. Some things depend on you, your choices, conduct, effort, judgment, and response. Other things do not. Another person's character, the past, public opinion, unexpected events, and the final outcome of your work. Confusing these two categories is one of the fastest ways to lose peace. You can communicate clearly with someone you love, but you cannot force them to understand. You can set a boundary, but you cannot control whether they respect it. You can prepare for an opportunity, but you cannot command someone to choose you. You can act with integrity, but you cannot prevent others from misjudging you. Your responsibility ends where another person's freedom begins. This is not helplessness. It is precision. When you stop wasting strength on what cannot obey you, you have more strength for what can. Imagine walking into an important interview. You have studied, practiced, and prepared. But instead of trusting your work, you begin trying to control every possibility. What if they dislike you? What if you forget an answer? What if another candidate is better? Nothing has happened, yet your body is already reacting to an imagined defeat. The wiser response is simple. Prepare fully, enter calmly, answer honestly, and release the decision. The result may matter, but it is not yours to command. The same principle applies to relationships. You cannot pressure someone into loyalty. You cannot argue another person into emotional maturity. You cannot rescue someone who refuses responsibility. You may speak, choose, forgive, distance yourself, or leave, but you cannot live their life for them. Letting go means accepting reality without surrendering your standards. Ask yourself where control has become obsession. Are you trying to manage another person's opinion? Recreate the past? Guarantee a future that has never promised certainty? Name it clearly. Then return to your side of the line. Do what belongs to you. Release what does not. Marcus Aurelius lived in a world filled with instability, yet he kept returning to the inner citadel, the place where judgment remains free, even when circumstances are not. That is the control worth building. Because freedom does not begin when life becomes predictable. It begins when unpredictability no longer owns your mind. And when you stop demanding certainty from the world, you finally become capable of recognizing how much you already possess. Abundance is not the belief that life owes you more. It is the discipline of recognizing that your peace cannot depend on having more. Scarcity says, I am incomplete until I earn more, receive more attention, or reach the next level. It turns every room into a competition and every successful person into evidence that you are falling behind. Even when you gain something, the relief is temporary because the mind trained to feel deprived will soon invent another absence. Stoicism offers a stronger definition of wealth. Epictetus taught that wealth is not measured by the size of your possessions, but by the smallness of your unnecessary wants. This does not mean rejecting ambition. It means refusing to become a servant to endless appetite. You can pursue a better career without despising your present life. You can improve your finances without measuring your human worth in numbers. You can desire love without treating solitude as a defect. The goal is not to stop wanting. It is to stop needing external things to certify that your life has value. This is where gratitude becomes more than a pleasant habit. It becomes resistance against psychological poverty. Look at what is already available to you. The ability to think, choose, learn, repair, begin again, and act with character today. None of these guarantees comfort, but they are the raw materials of a meaningful life, and many people ignore them while chasing symbols of success. The modern world profits from your sense of insufficiency. Social media shows you edited lives and calls them reality. Advertising creates a wound, then sells you the temporary feeling of being whole. Comparison turns another person's achievement into an accusation against your own timeline. But a disciplined mind refuses the accusation. When you enter a room believing you have nothing to prove, you listen better. You speak with less anxiety. You stop competing for every ounce of attention. Confidence grows not because you believe you are superior, but because you are no longer begging the world to confirm that you are enough. This changes your decisions. Scarcity makes you cling to bad relationships because you fear no one else will come. It makes you tolerate disrespect because you fear losing access. It makes you accept every opportunity because you assume another may never appear. Inner sufficiency gives you the strength to say no. Ask yourself, what do I already possess that I keep overlooking? Which desire has quietly become a demand? What would change if I pursued growth from gratitude rather than self-contempt? You do not need to pretend that you have everything. You need to see clearly that your character, effort, and capacity to respond remain available even when circumstances are limited. That is Stoic abundance, not expecting life to give endlessly, but becoming less afraid of what it may withhold. And once you stop acting from lack, you are ready for the final discipline to act fully. Release the result and let your character become the only success no one can take from you. The final Stoic discipline is simple to understand and difficult to live. Act fully, then release what follows. Most people reverse this order. They obsess over the result before they have completed the work. They imagine praise, rejection, success, embarrassment, and every possible consequence. Their attention is divided between the duty in front of them and a future they cannot command. Then they wonder why their effort feels heavy. Marcus Aurelius faced duties whose outcomes could never be guaranteed. He could make decisions, prepare armies, write laws, and serve the people under his care. But he could not control disease, betrayal, weather, death, or the private motives of every person around him. His strength came from returning to one question: what is the right action now? That question is still enough. Do the work without demanding applause. Speak the truth without trying to control how it is received. Love without abandoning self-respect. Prepare carefully without pretending. Preparation can eliminate uncertainty. When the moment arrives, give it your full attention. When it passes, do not keep dragging it through your mind. This is what it means to act and let go. It is not laziness. It is not believing that everything will magically work out. It is the refusal to poison meaningful action with unnecessary anxiety. Think of a farmer planting a field. He prepares the soil, chooses the seed, waters it, and protects what he can. But he does not dig up the ground each morning to check whether growth has begun. Constant interference would destroy the very thing he wants to develop. Your life is no different. Some goals require effort, then silence. Some relationships require honesty, then space. Some decisions require courage, then acceptance. You must learn when action is yours, and when waiting has become the wiser form of discipline. The danger is not always that you are doing too little. Sometimes you are touching the wound too often, checking the result too soon, and forcing answers that time has not yet revealed. So choose the next right action and perform it well. Then let reality answer in its own way. If success comes, receive it without arrogance. If failure comes, examine it without self-contempt. If the door opens, walk through with gratitude. If it closes, do not kneel before it and call that persistence. Your task was never to control every chapter. Your task was to preserve your character through each one. This is the core of Stoic self-mastery. Peace does not come from finally arranging life so that nothing can disturb you. Peace comes from becoming the kind of person who can be disturbed without being destroyed. You will still feel disappointment. You will still experience anger, uncertainty, grief, and fear. Stoicism does not remove your humanity. It teaches you not to surrender command of your life to every emotion that passes through it. Return to what is yours, your judgment, your conduct, your courage, and this present moment. Release the outcome. Release the comparison. Release the need to be understood by everyone. Release the belief that one rejection, delay, or loss can define the whole of your life. Do what is right. Let what is outside you remain outside you. And when the world becomes loud, return to the inner citadel. There, no opinion can rule you without permission. No setback can erase your principles, and no uncertain future can prevent you from living honorably today. If you are ready to choose discipline over reaction, write one sentence in the comments. I control my response. Then carry that decision into the next difficult moment, because that is where philosophy becomes character.